is good people?
Welcome to Growing Up Low Country. I'm Liz.
I'm Danny, and we have a special guest on the podcast with us today. Fellow Stag legend, you know him, you love him, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Joey Jenkins, aka Jinx the Jester, is in the building.
Thank you very much. I don't know about that legend part, man, but I'm thrilled to be here, and I appreciate the honor of even being selected for this, man. I'm really honored.
And glad you could be on. So, Liz, we had a restaurant crawl this past weekend. So before
That's
we get
right.
into chopping it up with Joey, this just a brief rundown of what we did this past Saturday with the restaurant crawl.
Yeah, I really enjoyed meeting Brandon and Aaron. So fun. And we started at Jackrabbit and just hit a few spots around Park Circle. I don't know if people know this fact, but there's 23 restaurants within walking distance. So the hard part is narrowing it down to where you want to go. And I was so full by like our third stop. But
Yeah.
we kept plugging away.
Man, that was always a good time and just a great food, great conversation. And I think I'm gonna throw another one sometime in the near future. We'll see. I still need my stomach still needs to my digestive system still needs to recalibrate because after y'all left, I ate at like three more spots like an idiot, and I'm paying for it dearly.
Come on, like it.
So Joey, so let's
Yes,
get
sir.
into the world of Joey Jenkins. So what was it like growing up for a young Joey in Monk's Corner?
Believe it or not, it was a lot of fun. Growing up, we didn't have a whole lot to do, so we had to make the fun. These kids don't have that advantage these days to make their own fun because everything's under the camera. We weren't that, and so we had a lot of fun knowing that we weren't on the cameras. But it was a little different growing up because when you lose a parent at a young age, it affects you. Some people say it does. Some people, I don't care how old you are, it affects you. So my upbringing was a little different, in my opinion, than others. But I tried not to make it look that way, and hopefully, we got a good result.
So how talk about how your mom's death affected you at such a young age because I believe you were still in middle school when she passed away, right?
I was 14, approaching going to the high school,
Okay.
and
So
what
just
made it kind of not difficult, but it was a challenge was the fact that she worked at the high school for so long, and so all of her what's the word am I looking for? Not classmates, her colleagues were still there, So I felt like I was under more of a camera than other people would, so as far as the eye, but other than that, it was a mind thing, but only the strong survive.
I hear you. So Liz, you have any questions for Joey?
Well, we've touched on this every now and then, but like I am so thankful that I was paired with Joey Jenkins in classes coming up because I have a theory that because he has such a great mama and great sisters who are strong, wonderful women, that he was like this accidental feminist before being a feminist was cool. And I always wanted to play ball with the boys. And I don't know if you know this, even in elementary school, like whatever Joey Jenkins said on the playground was the law. Like he set the rules and he decided, if he said you could play, you could play. And you're so welcoming and inclusive for like this like redheaded girl to like be able to play football and basketball with the boys. Like it really made me a better athlete. And it gave me a space to be part of the team, and it really meant a lot. Like you and Corey Myers would always pick the teams and always had a spot for us, and that means a lot, and you might not realize it at the time, but looking back, you're like, that could have gone a really different way, and it didn't. And I think your mama probably deserves a lot of that credit. But I mean, you would know better than I do. And I remember her fondly because she was a big part of our lives, and it was such a small town. Like everybody just kind of knew everybody.
I agree and attest to that.
So
And
you
also to
go ahead.
touch on, sorry, Danny, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
But to touch on that, Liz, I enjoyed picking you on the team because the guys didn't want you there. So I made sure you scored your touchdowns on purpose, just to make a point that not only did you play with us, you scored on them. So now they got to
That's
live
right.
with that. You know what I mean?
I love it. And while we're on the subject of athletics, Joey, you also played football and ran track at Berkeley High School. So talk to us about what it was like, playing for the legendary Dr. Jerry Brown.
Coach Brown is probably a different person to everybody, but to me, he was very inspiring. He was very inspiring on the fact that I ended up doing some coaching later on. Um, as a player, he taught us about life more so than the field because there was life after football, no matter how further you were going to go. And that resonated with me as far as how much he taught us about nutrition, taking care of your body and things like that. I took that with me, and that meant a lot. Um, and just we've had several other players my around our class age, older and younger, that have already moved on and started coaching and still coach now today. And I give him a lot of credit from the tree that he created, that plant they, the seed that he planted for that. And it was just a different experience, man. And winning that championship, that was everything for me. It was a championship for some people for different reasons. And it wasn't because of my true contribution to the field that year, but it was the idea of a combination of everything that happened and when it happened. Timing is everything. It was perfect timing. And so that championship for me was real big and one of the things I take with me, like one of those memorable moments.
And then you parlayed that into your track career at Berkeley High School. So what were some of your favorite moments running track at Berkeley?
I'll be honest with you, man. I really wasn't interested in track, but I was told that it would help you in football. And if it wasn't for Kenyon Doyle, I probably wouldn't have stayed on the track team. Kenyon Doyle, I mean, he don't realize who he was, and Liz speaks of me being a leader, but he was one of those quiet leaders. He didn't say a lot, but you saw his actions. You know what I mean? He was about that action boss. You know what I mean?
Indeed.
And I admire the fact that he didn't have to say a whole lot, but his presence and what he did, people admired it. You know what I mean? And he was very humble about it. And I can't say I was as humble as him at certain times, but I appreciated who he was. And going through our track season our senior year was pretty magical because we won a lot of first place, medals and whatnot. And we fell a little short and ended up second in the 4x1 our senior year. But I learned a lot from it, and I really give that credit and success pretty much to him because he pretty much pushed me. Because I
Yeah, that
figured
man
if you
leads.
about a step or two behind him, then you faster than a lot of people in the state. You know what I
That's a good way of looking at it.
mean?
So speaking of sports and you just passing the natural talent down. Now your son is about to embark on his collegiate football career. So talk to us about that.
Well, I'm very proud to talk about that, man. That's one of those proud dad moments. You want your kids to succeed and you want them to do what they want to do. And it's even better if they want to do what you did. You know what I mean? And the fact that he had his trials and tribulations through his whole high school career and where he is now, I mean, it's truly a blessing. It's truly a blessing. And he is accepted a scholarship to University of Charleston at West Virginia.
And I know that has to make you just make you feel like the proudest dad on the planet.
It does. It does. I'm very excited, and he's about to walk across the stage in a couple of days, and that's another monument, right there as well. So, I'm just kind of soaking all these in as a parent. It's just a little while ago I was coaching in a little league, and now he's about to walk across the stage. Time flies, man.
It does. So now we're going to get into the first segment of the program. So this is the teacher spotlight. So Liz, who's your teacher spotlight?
All right. We're going to take it back to third grade. When I had a teacher who will remain nameless for this episode, and she just did not have a sense of humor. She did not like me, and I'm sure it was at least 60% me but man, we just were oil and water. And I dreaded getting up every day to have to go to school. And I would just pray to God, like, dear God, whatever, can you just make it so I don't have to hang out with this lady for the majority of my waking hours? And lo and behold, we got a student teacher from she was at, her name was Miss Mitchum, and she was from South Carolina State. And she came and taught us about the Greek alphabet, and we got to make foods from around the world. And she was funny and entertaining, and just really, really into books, and just, she seemed like she enjoyed spending time with us and was like delighted to be there. And in return, I was always delighted to be there, and taught us like dancing. And I mean, school was fun again. And so I'm really thankful that she kind of swooped in and saved me that third grade year. And I hope she's still a teacher today. That would be a really long teaching career. But I hope she's doing awesome, whatever she's doing these days.
And Joey, who's your teacher spotlight?
I still have to give it to Mr. Gooden, Coach Gooden. Coach Gooden was my
Yes.
favorite, man. Between him having a little competition of who was the fastest person in school, you know what I mean? For the little 20, 30-yard dashes we had, to him teaching us how to dribble and shoot and layups, and just how he talked, man. Everything about him, it still resonates with me, his voice. And like I said, the fact that he was my wide receivers coach in high school, that made it even more, even that just the icing on the cake, to hear him coach us like we were elementary kids. I got a kick out of that. So that right there, we could pick a lot of different people, but he still stands out to me.
See Bob Tuck.
I'll never forget to see Bob Tuck.
I think actually, I think he was actually one of my teacher spotlights in an earlier episode, and I remember he taught us the watermelon kick. So whenever we would punt the ball, instead of holding the football lengthwise, we would we would hold the football out like this, like
Hmm.
we turned it the other, like turn it 180 degrees, and that was just the most unorthodox kicking style, and I could not nail down the watermelon kick to save my life. But as for my teacher spotlight, I'll have to give the spotlight to my computer aided drafting teacher by the name is Mr. Yates. He I first took his class at in 11th grade. We had a Oakley Vocational Center, and Oakley Vocational Center, they would have all these different vocations, and all of the students from different schools in the district, we would all converge at that one school, and we would just learn our different vocations. And I took computer aided drafting because initially I wanted to become an architect after high school, but unbeknownst to me, being an architect requires you to be proficient at math, and I was like less like super lousy at math. So that was pretty much a no-go for me, but I enjoyed the class, and I enjoyed his style of learning. He was just very, very affable, just very even keeled, really nice guy. And then my senior year, they shut down Oakley Vocational. And what they did was the different vocational disciplines, they would just divvy the different subjects out to different schools in the county. So Berkeley High, they had auto repair, Stratford had welding and carpentry, and Goose Creek was the school I had to go to take drafting. I think they had drafting and screen printing. So after the first period lunch bell, after the first lunch bell, I would have to get in my car and drive all the way to Goose Creek High School to take the class. Now, everybody else would have to get on the bus to go to their high school, but I had the distinction of quite literally being the only student at Berkeley High School that was taking drafting. And from a logistics standpoint, it wouldn't make sense for one student to just burn up
Hmm.
all the bus fuel taking one student back and forth. So they would just give me a weekly stipend for gas money. And truthfully, I blew a lot of that money at McDonald's instead, because that was when the Mighty Wings were really, that's when the Mighty Wings hit the streets, boy. That was a good time. But one of my biggest memories from Mr. Yates, he was also a diehard, he was from Cincinnati, and he was a diehard Cincinnati Bearcats, like men's basketball fan. And they actually played in Columbia against the Gamecocks. This was February 2nd, 1998. Still the best college game I ever attended. And he was just talking smack the whole way there. He took me and like two or three other students to the Carolina Coliseum at the time, and it was on a Sunday. Cincinnati was ranked number 4, and South Carolina was ranked number 6. And Antonio Grant ended up hitting a buzzer beater at the top of the key from 3 for the Gamecock victory. And that was the most quiet bus ride back to Columbia. And we were just giving him an earful the whole ride home. But shout out to Mr. Yates. He actually got me an internship also at Santee Cooper at Jeffrey Steam Plant. So once a week, I would go to the steam plant and just do the drafting at the steam plant. And yeah, he really looked out for me. I got to be honest. And so shout out to Mr. Yates. I think I ended up getting an A out of that class both years. So again, Mr. Yates, you are appreciated. So now the next subject we're going to get into is talking about family trips that we took when we were younger. So Joey, I'll start with you.
Family trips when we were younger. I was fortunate, man. I went somewhere almost every summer, whether it was New York, New Jersey, or we were also fortunate to go to Niagara Falls a couple of times. And
Nice.
just the difference of going to another country, so to speak, just see how the prices are different, the foods are different, the groceries. You saw more luxury cars, it's just all of that was really appealing to me as a kid, very appealing. And I guess the most important exciting thing was when we saw the Niagara Falls and saw where they filmed the little Superman part. That that made me feel like I did something. I was somewhere, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
all the trips, they all meant something, whether we were here or there. But the Niagara Falls trips, we took 2, and I remember those like yesterday. Those are my memorable ones.
So Liz, what were some of your more memorable family trips?
Well, Niagara Falls is still on my bucket list. I have never seen it, but I really would like to. So I'm a little jealous about that, Joey. But my family went to Chicago one time, and I can remember because we're from a small town and we were walking by, and I just remember there's like a line of homeless people following us back to the hotel because I'd made eye contact with everybody. And my parents had to explain, like, you can't just strike up a conversation with every Tom, Dick, and Harry on the streets around here. Like, we are not in Kansas anymore. And then another time, Mama and I went to England together, and I had been hiking the English Lake District, and I was really into this poetry of English lakes back then. Big old dork. But Mama met me in London after I'd hiked in January. I was freezing cold. Um, but we were shopping and chatting, and we go up to buy something at the register, and the guy behind the counter is like, what language do you speak? And we said English, and he's like, no, language do you speak to each other? And I was like, English. But he didn't believe us because we sounded different from the British English, obviously. And I know that's hard to tell what your own voice sounds like when you're your own self, but I've definitely heard more pronounced Southern accents than ours, but it was confusing for the people of London.
And I tell you, two family trips that I remember that stood out the most was, first of all, I was 4 years old and we took a trip to Disney World, and that was a lot of fun because I was indoctrinated with all things Walt Disney when I was a kid, and I was like, man, we're going to Florida because I had never been out of South Carolina up to that point, and I was like, we're going to Florida and we're going to see Mickey Mouse. I cannot wait, and just standing watching the parade that they would have at Disney World and seeing Mickey Mouse and seeing Pluto. I remember running up to Pluto and like touching his tongue and just being fascinated with like you got a plastic tongue, like that's weird. But that was a lot of fun. And then the last the last family trip that I really enjoyed was I think I might have been in 8th grade, and we took a trip up to Asheville to see the Biltmore House, and that was, man, the it just pictures don't do it justice. Seeing it in person is a whole it's a whole nother can of worms. I mean, this just how ahead of its time the building was. Like they had a cannery, just like a just like the just like a room that was just stocked full of dry goods and canned goods, and like they had a swimming pool in there. They had a bowling alley in there, and it was just mind blowing to me that like this was like at the like in the late 1800s. This is like in the 1890s, and just seeing how modern it was at the time. It had toilets and stuff too. I was like, man, this is incredible. And then the last end of that week trip, we actually left from Asheville and drove down to Hilton Head. So we got the mountains and we got the beach all in a matter of days. And that was just so much fun. And I remember going to the outlets out in Hilton Head and just
Oh
having a
yeah.
ball. I got my back to school clothes from there. I was on my duck head shorts kick, and I
Yeah.
had the Nike sandals, man. You couldn't tell me nothing. So next segment is a new segment we're going to introduce on Growing Up Low Country, and this is called Stags in the Wild. In this one, we're just going to talk about like fellow classmates or faculty that we ran into in between recordings. So Liz, do you have any Stags in the Wild submissions?
Yes, I do. I've only seen lady stags in the wild recently, and I don't, stag is a male deer, but we all wore the shirts that just said lady stags all the time. But I saw Michelle Delapontu Driggers. She was kind enough to come out to the shop a couple weeks ago, and seen Sarah Bonge, and Jenny Watson. And yeah, I actually catch up via text or phone call with some other folks here and there, but an actual sighting, I think it only qualifies if it's an actual sighting, correct?
Correct.
Okay, well then those are mine.
No
Okay.
Facebook stuff.
And for my Stags in the Wild, I actually ran into Joey Ori in the gym. And that was cool because I was just walking in. I guess he walked in behind me. I was going to the fountain to fill up my water bottle, and I just heard somebody yell out, "Fox nuts!" And I'm like, "All right, there's only like a few people that know me by that name." And I turned around and I saw him. I was like, "Man, that's all right, Joey Ori, man. I hadn't seen him in years." So I
You got to
saw
call him by
him.
his true nickname.
Yes, Noint,
There it is.
my dog Noint. And I ran into Antoine Coates in Walmart, and he was like, "Man, I really enjoy listening to you and Liz's podcast. It's like a trip down memory lane every time I listen." I was like, "Man, I appreciate that, man. Seriously." And most recently, I actually ran into Chris Perry on Sunday, just
Okay.
walking downtown. And I was like, man, and he was happened to be walking down East Bay Street, and we were cross paths, and I'm like, is that who I think it is? And he was like, yo, cuzzo. I'm like, man, it's always good to see him, man. It's always love with Chris Perry. So Joey, how about you?
I was actually going to grab some food, and I ran into Damon and Micah, and that was pretty cool. I hadn't been picked up that high in a very long time, but it was very good to see them, man. It was nothing but love, man. It was very good to see them. And it's that way when I see a lot of our classmates, even if it's not our class, you know what I mean? Just like the camaraderie and the respect and love, and just to know that we've succeeded in our own little ways, with our contributions to who we are today. It's just a little different. Certain people you see you hadn't seen in a while, it puts something in you. You know what I mean? You get a butterfly that you hadn't had in a while, that you see them, and just memories and everything. But that's kind of how it was when I saw them that night. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and when I
Y'all
saw
know,
Micah, go ahead, Liz.
well, I was just gonna piggyback off of what Joey was saying. Like, I just, the older I get, the more rare I think it is. Like, we genuinely root for each other, like it's not
Yeah.
just trying to tear each other. Like, I get so excited to see other people doing well, and you can feel that coming back to you when you see people out
Oh
and
yeah.
about, and you're hoping that they're doing well, and like it brings you a lot of joy to see that they are. And I thought that was just kind of how it was for everybody, because that was our experience. But the older I get, I realize that wasn't necessarily the case for everybody.
Yeah.
And I wish it was.
Exactly.
We'd all be better off.
Yeah, because I remember seeing, I was on Twitter not too long ago, and somebody asked a question. They were like, "So, do you still keep in touch with your high school friends?" And the amount of people that I saw that said no, I was like, "Wow, that just really drove your point home, Liz. We really don't know how good we got it with this stag camaraderie. So I'm thankful for that stag camaraderie. Seriously. So now we're going to get into the what we learned segment. Actually, before I get to that, I gotta say just a quick addendum to Stags in the Wild. I ran into Coach Stone in the gym as well, and that I mean it's Coach Stone.
It's not Coach Stone.
Coach Stone. No, you got to get don't
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
don't fill your stomach up with a bunch of junk before you hit the field. Go get you a nabs of soda or something. But yeah, I saw him, and it was always good. It's always good running in the Stone. So now we're gonna get into the next segment. So what we learned, Liz, what did you learn on this episode?
Well, I kind of knew it, but then it got elaborated upon. Joey's son playing football in college, and just the fact that he has a college age son is amazing. And then I also didn't know that you want to be an architect when you grew up. So I learned two things. I learned more than that, but those are the ones I will highlight.
Yeah. Joey, how about you? What did you learn on this episode?
Well, the architect dealing with you, that definitely was a shock. I was surprised about that, and hear about what all you went through for that. That was pretty cool. I learned a lot about that with you. And I learned just the evolution of Liz. Liz is a mom, you know what I mean? Liz is living it, man. Liz rocks, man.
And man,
If you're doing a good job, man. Everybody's, like I said, everybody's got their own success. But I just I just learned that as we talk to each other, as we get older, we just appreciate more things than we did, and we took a lot of things for granted. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's one thing I try not to do as we move on. Just this conversation right here, it does something to me. You carry this with you, and you're like, man, I can't wait to see somebody else. You know what I mean?
yeah, completely agree. And as far as what I learned, I didn't know that you went to Niagara Falls, and I was always, and that's cool because, and especially you mentioned in the Superman scene, because I vividly remember that scene because Superman 2 is one of my favorite movies ever. And I was like, you know what? Even at that age, I was like, you know what? That's good for that kid because he shouldn't have been playing with them rails like that anyway. So you know what? Stuff happens, and Superman came to the rescue. I was like, hopefully this kid learns his lesson. But and also uh, just finding out that your kid was going to play college football. I was like, man, that's all right there, man. It's good to see little Jinx because I mean you can't deny he looks exactly like you too.
I wouldn't deny him if I had to, man. He's been my motivation. He's my everything, man. I'm super proud of him, and his dream is coming to fruition, and it's somewhat of mine. So it's just special, man. It's very special.
Absolutely. And before I wrap the show up, I also got to give a big special shout out to Devin Rivers because he's always showing the podcast love and he's always leaving comments on when I post on Facebook or if he's watching on YouTube, he'll leave comments in the YouTube on the YouTube channel as well. So Devin, I greatly appreciate you, man. You mean more than you know. So big shout out to you, Devin. And Joey,
Shout
man,
out to you, Devin.
Yeah, I
yeah,
hope
man.
we see him in the wild soon. That would be awesome.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I ran into him in the wild. But shout out to Devin and Joey, man. Thank you so much for being a guest on here, man. This is always great, chopping it up with Stagnation.
Hey, thank you very much, man. I'm truly honored, and I'm blessed, man. We all are, in our own little ways. We are all blessed. We're still here. We're successful. Some have kids, some don't. But there's not a lot of sob stories about anybody we're talking to right now or talked about. And that's a good thing.
That's real. And thank y'all for listening. Make sure you like, download, or subscribe to Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. As of today, I have officially passed 300 subscribers. So shout out to y'all, man.
There
Y'all
you
really
go,
showed up and
dog.
showed out. So yeah, on my YouTube channel is at Danny Foxworth 843. There you can find all the videos for episodes of this podcast, as well as my baseball podcast, At the Plate with Danny Foxworth, my Candle podcast, which is A Wicked Good Time with Danny Foxworth, and Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. And for Jenks, Liz, and myself, this has been another episode of Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny. Until next time, y'all be good. Take it easy.